Shut up and sit down.
So, getting hurt sucks. You'll never truly get a reputation as being a thought leader until you've said something like getting hurt sucks.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
We're sending help immediately, Mrs. Fletcher.
Let's have a look at the history of the humble chamois cream, put on this earth to soothe, protect, and stop the chafing of our delicate nether regions.
You talk too much. Never shut up. I said you talk too much. Oh boy, you never shut up. You talk about people you don't even know. And you talk about places you never go.
And now, your distinguished Dialed podcast hosts, Matt LeGrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. Please enjoy our little show. Pretty please, don't make us beg.
Hi, and welcome back to the Dialed podcast. I am Jake Von During, and today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Romance in the house.
Yes. Mr. Romance.
I'm glad you didn't mess up that intro, Lance. Coming up with some different nickname or something like that.
Just trying to share the love with everybody.
It is Lance Romance, international man of romance.
And we are here with Evan Orange Price.
Yes. You know, we're like big in France now, and what other countries? Ireland, I think, too. Yeah,
huge.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Evan Price is twice as nice.
Twice as nice. Ooh, I'm keeping that.
Yeah, we're
keeping that.
We're taking submissions for a nickname for Mr. Evan Orange Price.
Nothing rhymes with LeGrand. I'm sorry.
And Mr. Matt LeGrand.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs.
Welcome back for another edition, boys. Let's get this thing started. Let's do our backpedal. Matt, start us off.
Okay.
How was your week, buddy?
Week was excellent. Let's see. I got on the bike a couple times. I did a really cool ride. I think it was on Tuesday. I'm sure it's on Strava somewhere, but I just took the day and I drove up to Mount Hood, like through the bike. This is total like Lance moment, right? Where you like,
just packed up the van and took off.
I'm just not going to work today. And I packed up the minivan and threw the cyclocross bike on there and just went and found some gravel roads, rode a little bit, filmed some stuff.
Nice.
And I was saying this earlier, like the video I made didn't really turn out at all. But I'm going to post it anyway. And it was just cool to kind of get off the road and do something that I don't usually do. So that was nice. And
where were you in that area?
It was, I drove up to Timothy Lake and parked up there.
Yeah.
So then so after I biked, I was going to run, and it's just like, I ran out of time, and I was like, what am I going to do? Do I run or do I swim? And I was like, I'm going to do a swim, and the water was absolutely beautiful. The water was like clear, and it was cold, but like it wasn't like cold. It was like, I mean, I didn't wear a wetsuit, so it wasn't too cold, but it felt like you're a little cold when you start.
Crisp
cold.
Yeah,
and it was just the water was so nice.
That's like when you watch those YouTube videos of the open water swim, you're like, I hope that water feels as good as it looks. Did it?
It was great. It was super nice. And so I did that, and then, there was so much more that I wanted to do, and it was like, oh, I have to get back. And it's not like I had to get back for anything big. It was like, I have to get back for my lake swim series. So it must have been Thursday that I went and did this. But anyway, it was like, oh, let me hustle back. And I literally got there like 10 minutes after my swim series thing started. So I was like a little bit late to my own swim series.
Late to your own event.
Yeah. And
so you did an open water swim at Mount Hood and then came in Fallen Leaf.
Exactly.
See, this is what, like, we really take this for granted as endurance athletes out here.
Right.
For everybody who's not from this area, Matt basically went and swam next to a beautiful mountain and then went and swam in a beautiful wooded little lake
It's ridiculous, right? It's like, this is one of those things where, oh, I guess I'm going to have to do another open water swim, like an hour and a half after doing the last one. This life I live is not too bad. I mean, it's not Lance level, but like...
I'm glad I could inspire a little bit of adventure.
It is totally inspiring.
It's the next rung down.
But
You're close.
I mean, I'm right there, man. Yeah. Real close.
You're at Lance pre-retirement phase.
It's you know what it is? It's like, this was like a glimpse into Lance's life. It was
24 hours in Lance's life.
It was like, oh, for one day, I'm going to live the life of Lance. And it wasn't even that bad because I had to coach cross country in the morning, so I had to be somewhere. It wasn't like I had a whole day where I could just be like, forget this. I'm going to go.
I know.
I'm going to go have this done. My wife's going to drive around and support my support crew.
Was she down for that?
My wife, no. Lance's wife, yes. So, yeah. But, so that was great this past week. And watched the tour, probably got on the rollers a little bit, watched the tour, and then...
Do you ride rollers?
Yeah. Yeah, but okay. So
I did not know that.
So actually, the rollers I have are really cool. I haven't talked about them on this podcast, but the rollers I have are called I don't know what they're called. Something Motion. I don't remember. I'll airs and emissions. Write this down. Make a note. I will remember.
We're not even 5 minutes in yet.
Free Motion. I don't remember what they're called, but they're basically. It's not. That's not right. But it's on a track, so that it has this little give to it, and they're fantastic. If you come over sometime, you have to ride them because you can do things like. They're real rollers, but you can get in the aero bars in them, or you can like stand up and climb. Like they're very forgiving because it has that track with a little bit of slack to it. Okay. So they're really cool. And the guy that makes them, cool. they're a little pricey. The guy that makes them is in Hillsboro, so for those of our listeners that don't know where we are, we're close to Portland, Oregon in the United States. And Hillsboro is basically the exact opposite of where we are. We're north of Portland, Oregon, and Hillsboro is south and west. So it is a little bit of a trek to get out there. But I did, a couple years ago. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
It's
I went
45 minutes from here,
depending on traffic and stuff like that. But yeah, I went out there and I talked to the owner, and he was like, here, gosh, co-motion. It's not co-motion. Inside ride. Yes. Thank you.
I just looked it up.
That's not even close.
Takes me Googling.
I was close.
You didn't even have one word right.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't close at all. Oh my gosh.
Inside Ride.
The Inside Ride.
InsideRide.com for those who want to go look it up.
Go check it out. It's they're super nice. The only problem is they're getting pretty old, and what I can do is I can take them back to him, and he can basically go over and readjust things and, replace the little, barrels of things like that need to be replaced. I'm not sure what he'll do, but I could do that. And I think I might suck it up and do something slightly different, like a Wahoo kicker or something like that, because I do think that when you're doing something like, hard and sprinty or like kind of those interval type workouts, the rollers, you can do them, but it's pretty hard. Like when you really go to the well and you just feel like you want to hang over the handlebars and just try to catch air, like you don't want to do that on the rollers because you'll go down. You will go down. Yeah. So
I broke my clavicle riding inside.
I've crashed. Yeah. I've crashed many times inside. So that's what I'm world famous for. So then I rode with a work friend yesterday, nice and easy on some just country roads like north of here. And then also I tried to get out for a run today, which I'm sure our listeners can relate to this. I have 3 kids, which means like we're in the thick of soccer. So I was at soccer kind of all weekend. So today my smart idea was like, okay, I'm going to go to the soccer game. I'm going to bring my running stuff. I'm going to go for a run at the soccer game and just do loops around the soccer field. And that's what I was doing. I was doing loops and my legs just felt horrible. Of course, it was probably 90 degrees or something like that today, but still. The legs are not great.
What's the protocol on? Because of me being somebody without children.
Yeah.
What's the protocol on the amount of time you can run/bike during a child sporting event that is not inappropriate or negligent?
So it's super sketchy, right? Like is this person stalking kids' soccer games?
Yes.
Especially in running shorts.
Actually,
you gotta be really careful on the length of the shorts that you're wearing.
I don't think the kids care. All the other parents scoff at you.
Oh, come on.
But
yeah. I mean, I mentioned to some of the parents, I was like,
what kid really cares at his pin? Right. To be honest, I mean, like my mom, that was when she got in. I mean, that was back in her ultra marathon running days. I'm sure she didn't catch a second of soccer. And that is nothing against her. She's awesome, but like, she didn't care about soccer. Why would I care if she cares about soccer?
Well, we had 3 games today, which is a lot. And so I probably caught 15 minutes of soccer.
That's a bold.
I know. It was sad. It was a little bit sad.
You guys in a tournament or was it
It was a tournament and I was like running and I would just kind of stop and watch the game for a little bit and my legs were just feeling so horrible. So it was kind of like, thank God I'm going to stop and watch this game because I mean, my leg can't keep running. My legs are absolutely falling apart. And so then I would run a little bit more, kind of stop and watch and stuff like that. And then I finished my run, which was super short. I couldn't do anything today. And my other kids were like, we cannot stand it. It is too hot out here. Like I was like, okay, Mom, you stay here, watch the game, tell me what happens. I'm going to take these kids to get some, something cold, like water, ice water. And I don't know, we went to Starbucks and got like, scones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went on and on my back pedal, and I apologize. These segments are supposed to be quick.
That's a peek into Matt LeGrand's life, which I actually really enjoyed right
Yeah.
there. So I went running around the soccer fields, got super tired, went and got scones at Starbucks with the kids.
Yeah. That was it. That was today, and I'm super sunburned. So
He is. He's looking awful.
and it was.
red.
It's like one after another. Like I was swimming up in the mountain, got sunburned. Next day, I'm like biking on the bike, got sunburned. Then it's like 2 days of like soccer tournaments.
Do you wear sunscreen?
I wear sunscreen, but I miss stuff where I'm like, oh, put sunscreen here and here and here, and then I swim open water, and I'm like, oh, my whole back just gets completely fried, right? So I'm just not thinking through the details.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry for the derailing.
That was awesome. I liked that.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, sure.
That was outstanding.
Okay.
Evan, how was your week?
I'll kind of have a joint talk with Lance here about a fun ride that we had. My week was awful worky. I have one of my best friends out here, Ryan Knoll, who is our clinic director at the clinic I work at, just got a total hip replacement, and he is doing. He's doing well now.
Right.
He's walked without his walker, I think, today, so he's killing it. Guy was back in the day, like he'll limp around right now because of his hip. Hopefully when he comes back, he's kind of looking a little bit better.
Yeah.
But back in the day, he's 36 now. He was a high school running back, a very good one.
Wow.
And a 4:30 and change miler.
Wow.
So like good athlete, very good athlete.
Some
Yeah.
pop.
Why the hip replacement so young?
So he had a hip. This is not me breaking HIPAA by any means, because he will tell anybody this story. And I know this story in detail because he's told it so many times. But
Well, he's probably not a client of yours.
no,
yeah.
no, not at all. So he had. No, he's way too stubborn for PT. He's the most stubborn physical therapist ever. But he had a really bad tackle in football, and I think what ended up happening, the way he tells the story, is he had the Bo Jackson injury, which is where the femoral artery gets severed, and over time his blood flow to the hip was terrible, and it was necrotic by the time they did the surgery. So yeah, I'm sure it was a disaster in there, but hopefully he's doing well, fingers crossed.
So that means you're working more.
Yeah.
Because he's out.
Yeah, so we're all in the clinic kind of having to take up the slack because he takes an awesome amount of workload. Like, the guy works his butt off. So yeah, we're all picking up the slack, but it's okay. It's fine. So I'm at the end of my big volume training block, thank God. I can't take these weeks like I used to when I was younger. And I know all of you are like rolling your eyes at me, I'm sure right now.
Yeah,
like
26.
And everybody, I'm almost 27.
Okay.
He's still that young where you have to throw in a half or a third or a quarter. Yeah.
So, I mean, but like, God, I remember when I was 24 and 25, I could knock out the weeks I've been doing and just pop right back at it and be good and be good
Do you
and be
think
good.
that's because of age, or do you think it's because you probably weren't working as much?
But the thing is even back then I was like working as a full-time bike mechanic, or I was like, I mean, I was still on my feet for most of the day, but I don't think I had the stress maybe in my job that I have now.
Yeah.
That may have something to do with it.
And it could be like you're waking up early to do all these workouts, and that plays a part.
It does.
It's just so hard to know. Like,
It's also late evening stuff. But also, I mean, you kind of know this too. Like, if you had raced collegiate track till you were 27, you would have felt old at the age of 27.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you're right.
You can only beat up your body at that level for so long. Like, that's why these, what's your like average track age? I mean, it's like 30, 32 is when they're still fast, but towards the end of their careers.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then they move to the road and do some longer, less intense stuff usually.
Yeah, usually it's before 32 that they'll move to the roads for sure.
Especially over like the mile
20,
or 5K.
28 is probably pretty old on the track.
Yeah.
But, running marathons and stuff.
I'm just making poor excuses over here, but
I know.
But
No,
yeah,
I think that's fair. And I think it's all relative, right? Where it's like it's you 27 and then then you're 37 and you're like, oh yeah, when I was 27 you felt different.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just relative to how you feel compared to comparing yourself to previous years.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, we got the Olympic the standard distance nationals for triathlons coming up, which is fun. So
what's the date on that?
August 12th, I want to say.
12th? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so in a couple of weeks, which will be really fun. But yeah, outside that, I went on another I'm kind of ditching the really specific long rides and just going out with the dialed guys, and it has been such a good decision. So much more fun. And I probably go a lot harder than by myself too. So I'll tell.
That generally happens. Yeah.
I'll tell. Yeah, it does. So I'll tell. We start the ride.
We had a
how
dialed.
long were we into the ride?
Well,
when
we had a dialed team ride
Yeah.
on Saturday, and there were eight
of us. I
eight
think.
of us,
Yeah.
I think, that showed up, and they were all solid
riders.
riders. And yeah, we were 15 miles in. Which one are you talking about? There's two events.
Your flat is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was like 15
There's a
miles
couple
in.
like Lance moments I'm going to mention here before we get to his backpedal. So I'll tell them from my point of view. First, Lance flats, and
15 miles into a 80-mile ride.
Yeah. And in my case, this was 15 miles into almost 110-mile
you
ride.
went
So this was
much
at the
longer.
very beginning of my ride. And Lance Flats and Mike Myers, just awesome time trialist. Everybody knows him in the area. Great guy. Is like, okay, well, we'll hang behind. And he looks up and points. He's like, and Evan will hang behind with us. Which in my head, I was like, oh, crap, I know what that means.
So he sent the rest of the team ahead.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, Evan, you stay here.
Yeah.
we're
gonna change this flat, and then we're gonna chase back
Chase
on.
back on you.
Yeah.
So we do a little team time trial, which actually
That's cool.
was awesome.
It's
It's
fun.
so fun. Yeah, we're just
much-
first we caught what's the name of that?
The
that group
Mari
ride?
gripe.
Right.
As soon as we finished changing the flat, which
Yeah.
took how long?
So okay,
Did you time it?
I had him down. He was just under 10 minutes.
Okay.
like
It was not fast.
I'm talking like
That's not bad.
9:50. He was at 10 minutes.
That's not
but
bad.
yeah, no, it,
It
could've
wasn't
been much
20
worse.
minutes.
It wasn't 20 minutes. And so
Yeah.
we just got back on our bikes, and then the Mari ride catches us on these. It rolls through right at the same spot.
Yeah,
And so we're like, okay.
we should
hey,
apologize that ride.
Yeah,
we
should.
ruined that ride.
We said, hey, guys, we really love you guys. It's all great. But we're
gonna
10 minutes behind
Yeah.
our group, and we are going to chase to catch
Those
on
guys
to them.
get it. They understand.
Yeah, and so
And they know you guys too.
They're competitive
sort of.
though. They
are.
decide to hang with us for a
and
little.
there was 12 guys or something.
Yeah.
And so me and Evan and Mike just time trialed at the front.
Yeah.
Just the three of us rotated. Nobody else rotated through.
No, which is fine, but they were lined out.
But they did not
Oh,
drop.
they were
They
good.
stayed with us.
Credit
They were
to
like-
those guys. They were
yeah.
lined out and hammering the whole time. Like
They're gonna-
everybody
they're gonna
was
play that game.
strung
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, they just sat on our
They
wheel.
know. They
and
know.
we were doing 25,
lot, yeah.
27, something like that.
Yeah.
For
a long time.
Man, I wish
10
I
or
was there.
12 miles.
Oh God,
Could've
if
used you,
Jake, if Jake had been there, we would have caught him probably like 10
Yes.
minutes earlier.
Those
but
are my
that-
favorite moments
Okay,
right there.
so it took you guys 40 minutes to catch.
45, I think.
Yeah,
That's
something like that
serious
to
work.
catch them.
We
Yeah.
were moving.
That's a lot of work.
It was
Yeah.
a lot of work.
Yeah.
And the Mari
It's
ride went
early.
a different way about halfway through that. So the rest of that, it was just the three of us.
Oh, you guys are going straight? We
Yeah.
gotta, we gotta,
Oh,
we
we're
gotta,
going left.
we got to turn here. That's,
And
that's a
what-
dead end up there. But that's on our route. So
Yeah.
So then the other moment I'll say is much later in the ride, we hit this little downhill into a sharp uphill, and I thought I had experienced getting lanced before. This was what getting so. We're going down this downhill, and I'm not sure exactly where this right is. So I'm kind of like looking back. I'm like, "Hey guys, where's the right?" They're like, "Oh, right there, Evan." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So
We're on Cedar Creek Road
That's what it was.
between La Center and Amboy. So
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
in North Clark County.
we're at like the peak of this ride. It's probably 50
Yeah.
miles,
Yeah,
60
we're
miles
50
into this
miles
ride.
in,
Yeah.
something like that.
And I kind of just leisurely take this right turn. I'm like, oh, that's a steep climb. I should probably gear down. And
Yeah.
as I'm having this thought, Lance blows by in what has to be still his big ring.
right.
At,
I think I've dropped a chain there.
at 400 miles an hour past us and literally gaps us in what is the length of about 100 yards. He gaps us by 40 seconds. And it was like, it wasn't just my reaction. Everybody else on the ride was like, what was that?
Because I didn't hear the reaction. I just.
Yeah, you were too far ahead.
Well,
You're
I,
not going to
I
hear
knew
it.
it was coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is short and it's sharp, and this is right down my alley.
It was,
so
yeah.
I am
You're very much
hammering
a
it.
power climber. I like that.
Yeah.
Very much a power climber. And
Yeah.
you saw that I did not see that coming, so that was probably
You were up front.
yeah. Well, I mean, no, I think I
That
was.
point. Yeah.
It was a rare situation where I'm on the front of a descent, but yeah, that was my weekend. So
Nice.
it was a blast. Yeah, I hope we can do those through the fall, and then Jake will jump in with us soon, and we'll get Matt there too.
Yeah, well, I was really looking forward to this summer, and obviously not able
Yeah.
to get out there. But
We'll-
we had some
we'll
awesome
have a
rides
long
last year,
fall.
and I'm sure
Yeah.
there'll be quite a few more this summer as well. So
Oh, yeah.
August is usually a pretty good month for those to
Yeah.
kind of kick up because all of the racing pretty much comes to a stop before cross season starts, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to go out and get some rides in. So you'll enjoy those a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Lance, how was your weekend, my friend?
Well, It was fantastic.
He started to say glorious.
I was waiting for
it.
it.
Was
I can't say
glove
it.
fantastic.
Glorious. This team ride we did was just too much fun. It was great to be out there with all those guys, and everybody hang really well. And I was feeling fairly good that day. And so it was.
Do you guys have anyone that's not on the team that comes in and hops in for any of these rides?
We actually picked one guy up from the Mari ride.
Okay.
He's like, hey, how far are you guys going? And
Cool.
I said, we're doing like 80 miles, and it's going to be pretty hard and fast. He's
Do you
like,
remember
"Can
who
I-"
it was?
Yeah, it was Thomas.
Okay.
What a champ.
Why not?
That guy's
Yeah.
fit. Yeah.
So he's a guy from the Czech Republic.
Okay.
He's been here for a while. I told a story months ago about a guy on the Mari ride who pushed me up a hill because I have a hard time. That was Thomas.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So you love this guy.
Yes, I love Thomas.
All right. Good.
He's a tall guy, but when I asked him how tall he was, he said it in centimeters. So I felt
It's like crunching math.
I felt bad asking him, like, I got no idea what that means. But I was like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
Right.
I'm a couple less centimeters than that.
Okay. No idea.
Yeah, I was like,
Just
all
roll
right.
with that.
Yep, okay.
I've been watching the tour, and they keep referencing people like riders' height in centimeters. I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea of that.
I can make the kilogram conversion roughly, but
yeah.
the centimeters, I'm lost. I'm like, I got no idea.
The other stuff I did this week, I spent a few days in Eastern Washington, in Pullman, because my youngest daughter, Darby, had her freshman orientation for Washington State University. And so they have a program for the freshmen and a program for parents who want to come.
Nice.
And so we spent, me and my wife spent a couple days out there, and I rode a little bit out there, and there's some fun rolling hills out there, and so that was really nice.
Did you steal any KOMs out there?
Maybe.
I haven't been stalking you well enough to know how.
I know. I forgot to look at your ride to see if you grabbed any. We were close on a couple of us were close on Saturday, I think. But
I feel like I looked at that ride and like it was interesting because you all had KOMs on there, and I was like, how do they? They're all riding together. Are they taking each other's KOMs?
Yeah, it
like,
depended on when they uploaded their ride.
So it's like tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
Everyone's a winner.
Everybody gets a gold medal.
Because I had like 10 or 15 top 10s on that ride with the team because we were moving.
Together. Yeah.
So, but it was a good time. Yeah. Oh, and then I raced last Monday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
and
did
it-
see the
We have
results.
not recapped that yet.
We haven't recapped the race.
I've already gotten the recap, so
Yeah,
that's
me and Evan talked
And
about
I
that.
saw some results. So go ahead.
That was
Yeah.
a great race, and I got some photos that will show
Jake was
Lance's
there,
face. He had the best game face.
Game face.
I'm not saying that just because you're sitting here and you're my friend. I saw the face of every single person that raced every single heat in all 3 heats, and I took pictures of everybody on our team, and nobody had your game face, man. Your game face, your focus, and like just how like intense your face was awesome. And I'm sure there's a few pictures of it in there. But
There are.
that post-race face picture you have of him would be
was-
really cool as
Yeah.
our profile
that's
picture.
a 100% contrast of what his race face was.
I was fully focused.
The picture I saw was there's just mud all over your face with
That's the
a
one that-
huge smile. That's the
Yeah.
one they're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll post pictures to the Dialed Instagram if
Yeah.
it's not already up there. It may already be up there, but it's,
That one I think is on the Dialed. I don't know.
The,
It's
the
up
post,
somewhere.
The post race one was on the Dialed Facebook page, I believe.
Okay, I'll put it on the podcast
book
page,
page,
and
yeah.
I'll put on a few of the race pictures too. So make me notes to do that right now.
Yeah, so 40-minute mountain bike short track race. I've taken second 3 weeks in a row. I've been beaten by Chris Wehrman twice.
the Buffalo Bills of,
Yes.
of short track.
Yes. So this race, it was really hot. I don't know. I was all amped for it. I had taken a couple days off, so my legs didn't have quite so much fatigue.
Yeah, I get to go on. I get to go back and reference what I told you too.
Yeah.
Like, all you need to do
Yes.
is just taper down a little
We're
bit,
about
and
to
you're going
talk.
to take that.
We're
down.
definitely going
Yeah.
to talk about this in a second.
it's easy. You can just refer back to episode 17.
That's right. So, when the gun went off, I actually, instead of bolting out, I just got on Chris Wehrman's wheel instead.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in 7th and 8th place or something like that. And there was a spot on the course that had a really sharp, it's like a double up jump if you were on a motocross track where you would fly over the dip. Well, there was a sharp spot. And if you took it too fast, you hit you
next dip.
caught
Yeah.
air.
Or-
And I was behind Chris and one other guy, and the guy next to Chris took it too fast, flew through the air, hit Chris. They both crashed. So Chris crashes, this other guy crashes. I was able to avoid them, and that was basically the race.
Hey, no, that's
yeah.
Still raced out there and still had to be, you
well, that was
solo away.
That was 4 minutes into a 40-minute race, but I made it. I made it up to the front to Mike Hamness, and then I got around Mike Hamness, and then
is everyone okay?
Yeah, there was no. They both were back up and going, but he just lost too much time. Yeah.
And then where does this put you on the points standings? Are you second still? Don't know. Okay. We'll find out.
I'm in the lead now.
Oh, yeah.
Of course I know.
Okay.
I looked at that very closely. All right. So it's me and Chris and Mike.
He's got some responsibility now. Heavier are the shoulders that holds a yellow jersey.
That's right.
They should give out a yellow
jersey.
Do they have
a jersey? They should.
There'll be a podium on the last race. There's 2 more races to go. Okay. So, so I've got
get your work cut out for you.
I've got my work cut out for me. So, but yeah, I got out.
That's fun. That's super fun.
It was fun. I don't know if I just was feeling really good, and I ended up catching like
the heat in front of you,
and the heat in front of that, and the heat in front of that.
Jeez.
So
it sounds like a crowd.
Yeah.
Big crowd.
Lance looks good out there. His fitness his fitness is coming together. He tapered up right, and his form looked good. And he was just smooth out there, and he was so focused, and he just looked like he was hitting on all cylinders. It was good stuff.
I think you're gonna have fun.
There's my one good stuff.
I'm mark that down. Jake just uses good stuff.
All right. I think you're gonna have a good time in cyclocross. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah, just to kind of come back to the points. Lance is in first place with 400 points, and Mike Hamness is in second place with 390, and Chris is in third with 343. So it's going to be close.
Chris will be back with a vengeance.
And we've got 2 races left, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a race. 2 races left, and your worst placing gets tossed out.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
that's good for Mike.
And it's better for me. I shouldn't say that because the first race I was 16th.
Well, all I'm hoping for is a podium sweep. So that will be.
We got a pretty good shot at that.
Yeah. It's going to be good. Good. Almost said it.
Whoa. It's going to be good things.
That could be exceptional.
Cool. Yes.
I had a fun time. I finally won a race this year.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. I can be a happy man
for another week.
For one more week until I get crushed again.
Right on.
Jake, tell us about your week.
My week was a lot like the week before.
Yeah, but you've gotten out more.
I got to go out to short track again, and that was a lot of fun. Got to take a lot of pictures of everybody. I think it was like closer to 800 pictures this time. But just go through and delete the crappy ones, and then kind of boil it down, and then post a bunch up for the team. I think I posted up about 100 pictures for everybody. So, and then I got to go to the doctor. Couple doctor's appointments. I got to take my immobilizer off, which was heaven sent. I thought I was going to have to wear that thing originally for 3 months. And although, everything still hurts, it's so nice to be able to take that thing off and just not have to worry about it and have to sit with it and lay with it and all that other stuff. It's just terrible. So
sleeping
still sucks.
Still sucks. Okay.
Yeah, I had I think a string of 5 days where I averaged 4 hours and 45 minutes.
Right.
I actually started wearing a Garmin watch, one of the
you can track your sleep.
Exactly, and it tracks your sleep. And I've been checking that every morning, saying, "Please let it be more," and wake up, and it's like, and I can't go back to bed. It's like 4 hours and 45 minutes. I'm like, turn on the tour.
Yeah.
But I had like a string of like 4 or 5 of those days in a row, and I was so flipping exhausted that I got there, and then I got up real quick to get something. I think it was to go take my little pain med thing, and I went and sat back down. I fell asleep for like another 3 hours, and that's the first time that happened. So I had one day out of the last almost 7 weeks where I got 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, I'm averaging like 4.5, 5 hours. So that kind of sucks.
Yes,
but it'll eventually sort itself out. But I did get to go see Evan for physical therapy this week. Granted, we didn't do a whole heck of a lot, but
there's not a lot to be done now. But that's he's Jake. Jake is an amazingly fast healer. I'll throw that out there without saying anything else. But yeah, that's.
Well, I'm glad you think so. I don't feel like it. So I feel like I've got such a long road ahead of me.
He's in like the throes of it now, which I think anybody who's had now, I've never had an injury that I'll compare to Jake's, but anybody who's had like stress fracture injuries, clavicle breaks from falls, anything like that's like the longest like 2 to 3 month period. Like that period of time could be extended and seem like 2 years to somebody from endurance sports, just because. I mean, when we talk about like drug addictions, like this is the best. It's a healthy, awesome drug addiction, but it is, and it's hard to be away from these sports. Time crawls.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because my shoulder puts everything else into perspective because I still feel my ribs. I still feel both of my ankles. I still feel like, all of the little parts and pieces that ache. And like, I don't even think about those just because my shoulder is such an SOB. it's just one of those, like,
it's taking the attention off everything
exactly.
else.
But time heals all wounds, I hope. So
Walking around pretty well now though.
Trying. And
Yeah.
I got this neurological damage in my shoulder now that I've got to go and get an MRI on. And my posterior deltoid doesn't work at all, and everything else is kind of atrophied and not working great, and I've got numbness and whatnot. So we'll get that all sorted out, though, and I'll be back. I promise.
Oh, yeah.
So other than that, though...
I'm a little afraid, actually.
Oh, he's going to come back so pissed off.
Yes.
Oh, it's going to be all this pent up.
Yes.
Like,
It's going to make us hurt.
He's going to, like, the first ride in I'm terrified for, like, that first big group ride we did in, like, February?
Yeah.
Jake's going to come out for that and just tear everybody's legs off for the first 20 miles.
Right.
I'll be back on the trainer here soon. I got somewhat of a green light to get back on there, but I'm just so exhausted from these pain meds. What's the neurological gabapentin and stuff.
Yeah,
that stuff makes me like tired, and I just don't have the energy to get on there. So
your system's tired from healing, man. That's a lot of work to heal something like this.
There's no sleep, so that's just another layer that I got to get figured out. So, but I am not doing too much. Not a whole heck of a lot of stuff going on. Just another week, another day in the life. So, just living again vicariously through the three of you guys. Okay, so before we get into the next part here, our little roundtable that we're gonna jump on, we have some business to take care of, and we got called out. And I was actually
that's a good point.
It was kind of stewing on me a little bit too, because I go back and I'm listening to stuff, and I'm like, gosh, we talked about Arizona missions a few times, and we never come back and we never like close that gap. So we're gonna do better about that because I know we bring it up all the time. So right now we are going to, before we get into the next little bit, go through some Arizona missions from recent podcasts. And I think who wants to go first here?
Well, I think it was last podcast. Could have been 2 podcasts ago. We're always talking about shaving legs. I don't know why.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And
nobody shaves their legs in cycling. What are you talking about?
Exactly, Lance. Check this out, man. They're nice and hairy for you.
I got a friend here.
And Evan said something like the Brownlees. So there's 2 Brownlees, Jonathan Brownlee and Alistair Brownlee, and they're arguably the best triathletes in the world.
Yes,
from England. They're very, very good.
Maybe not at the moment, but definitely historically.
They're
Olympians. They're Olympic medalists. Yes.
Olympic gold and bronze. I think. Anyway, so they're fantastic. They, Evan was like, they don't shave their legs, and I was like, wrong.
So Matt,
so then we
does Alistair shave his legs? This was about Alistair. I'll give you. This was not about.
I'd say both of them probably.
Yeah,
you gotta figure Jonathan's gonna do whatever his gold medalist brother does.
That's what I would think too. That's what.
And there was an interview with him in 2017, which is very, very recent. It's after all this, wind tunnel, shaving data has been out in the public, and Alistair's like, I've never shaved my legs before. So I read that, and I was like, oh, I'm so wrong. I hate being wrong, but it's part of the game.
They are kind of pasty white English guys, so
they may just not have much hair. Is honestly like if you're Italian, like me over here, that's a big difference.
Those guys, and they ride draft legal, so but still, it was a valid point.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
That was a mistake on my part by calling you out, saying they probably
Now let me bring myself back down to earth here. So I'm ashamed to say this because I really do pride myself on being good at the history of cycling. Like I've done a lot. I listened to it, read a ton of books, watch a lot of it. I mixed up the years on Pantani's tour win versus Ulrich's tour win.
Oh, jeez.
I know.
How dare you?
I'm actually
splitting hairs there.
So sad. Panatani won in 1998. The Pirate won in 98. Ulrich won in 97.
I wonder how many people are going, huh? Who?
No.
What?
Most people should be pointing their finger at me and being like, you should know better than that.
But there's one guy out there that's like, I knew it. I knew he was wrong.
Well, we have listeners in like Europe and Germany and I mean, like especially if we have a listener in Germany, that's going to bother somebody that got Ulrich's year wrong.
Yeah.
Like, if I got the Kaiser's year wrong, they're going to be pretty mad at me.
Last week, I talked about Tom's Schoons the Tour de France rider that appeared to have maybe had a motor
I'm glad you're
in
bringing
his
this up.
thing.
Yes.
And I called him out and said, it looks really suspicious.
Right.
Like
You
he
weren't
had
the only one.
motor.
A lot of people did.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did not.
Yeah. So after our podcast, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. So I went back and looked for YouTube clips, and then everyone was discussing it too. And they're like, nope. He, pushed down on the pedal. And we did talk about that on
His
the podcast.
right foot.
We did.
Was it his right foot was on the pedal, and once he
Yeah.
lifted it off, he spun it pretty
He
hard.
spun it
didn't
out
he?
to get the gear set. And it was just, it looked
suspicious.
And so that's okay. I mean,
There was another.
It's all about the angle of the
yeah,
camera.
There was
It's all about
another
the angle.
camera angle
Yep.
that came out that showed him messing with his chain and spinning the crank with his arm to make sure that he
Can
got.
you imagine if there was this much scrutiny at the Tour de France, like in the Eddie Merckx era?
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Where
They just caught this guy doing cocaine before the start of this climb. Let's go to the
He just
video
snorted
footage.
a pick-me-up.
Oh, that's definitely what he just did.
right.
Right.
It's funny how fast all the different video angles surface from like spectators that are there. And that's kind of the cool thing about the sport with all the spectators out there. That
It is,
You
yeah.
start to see all the different. It's like when Nibali went down. When
Yeah.
they didn't have it like a good picture of it or a good angle of it, and finally they saw the camera strap of the lady and. That was hanging out and he goes down, breaks his back, and he's out of the tour, and that kind of sucks.
He wrote the rest of that stage with a fractured thoracic 10th vertebrae.
He just jumped back on and kept going.
Also, but if you watch that video when they had to pick him up, there's like a moment where you can see in his face how bad that hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Like them just picking him up. Like there was a moment in his face where you're like, oh my God, that guy's going through some pain.
That could have been bad. Picking someone up off after a crash like that's not always the right thing to do.
This is where I'll just toss this out there, and I can get called out for this, but I've always said I am not saying that cyclists are even close to whatever your term for athlete is, the most athletic professional, professional athletes. But when it comes to mental and physical toughness, and ability to endure pain, there's no competition. It is first place professional cyclists, everybody else. Yeah. It's not even close. It's not even, and that's coming from even distance running.
Sure.
Even professional triathlon.
Very different. Yeah.
They are. I mean, they're psychopaths. Those guys, like Lawson Craddock, is gonna.
Yeah.
I don't want to say. This is me knocking on wood there.
Right.
Lawson Craddock may finish this Tour de France.
He's doing
He's
great.
just hanging on, but
he's made you know what? It's good for him. He's young. It's good for his career.
Yeah,
everyone's gonna
absolutely.
be cheering for him
Yeah.
now for the rest of his
That's
life.
good for American cycling too. We need something to hang our hats on.
Yeah.
I mean, I love TJ Van Garderen and I loved Andrew Talansky and all those guys, but like we haven't had a successful. I mean, since
we're overdue. Yeah.
Since
you're right.
Chris Horner, at the Giro,
Right. Which
was years ago.
Has it been a little bit? Yep.
Yeah. And a little bit under question, but
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway,
I was thinking the same.
We just
thing.
went way off the rails from errors and omissions, though. Are there any more errors?
because we never tangent. Anything else, guys?
I don't think so.
Probably, but we forgot.
We promise to do a better job
well-
of keeping track of this and coming back to it.
Yeah, and what we think, whenever we think that there might be an error and omission, we'll take a note of it, and I think that'll help us come back around and loop back around. So it's just a matter of like documenting.
Or we just need listeners to ask.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Help us.
what about this?
This
Just
was
one
wrong.
short little comment would
Right.
would help us direct what we need.
You
to
can be as direct
correct.
as you want with it. Be like, Evan, you screwed this up. Ulrich won in '97.
Lance,
You
you are
fraud.
wrong.
I've already said that I speak in Hepler standard deviation. Everything
It's plus or minus 5. Yeah.
plus or minus 5. Everything I say has a ring of truth
There you
to
go.
it.
Looking at the goniometer, it's a lot.
We do appreciate the feedback, though, so that was appreciated, and we will do better. So let's get started with our first topic here, a little roundtable on injury prevention and injuries we could have personally avoided. Also, kind of just run through what works, what doesn't, and what we think or does or doesn't work. So, and what we think of all these different things. So, we're gonna just kind of start off, and Evan, I'm gonna lean on you pretty heavily here because you are a resident PT, and
I'm also very opinionated, but yes.
yeah,
that's-
and then the three of
None
us.
of my opinions are correct, but they are my opinions.
The three of us have been doing this for quite a long time as well, and we'll chime in with our personal experiences of what works and what doesn't. So I got a long list of things here, and if you guys have other things to add, feel free. Evan, go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, so I'm going to start us out with a real basic, because I think we, especially in our capitalist world, like to get mixed up in what is the biggest, best form of recovery. Let's remember when we talk about the best running times, the best cycling times from these eras. So let's go back. I've already mentioned it. Marco Pantani still has the record up the Alpe d'Huez. At that time, was their recovery worse than us because they didn't have things like Normatec boots or like these great compression sleeves or all these different beet juice things?
I have a problem with your example because of drugs.
But
he was on something.
Okay, yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
That's good recovery right there, right?
It's great recovery. We can talk about that. That's great recovery.
In that case,
Ketamine recovery.
In that case,
Really?
you nailed it. You
Great
nailed
recovery
it.
in that sense. But I mean, we're also in the assumption they're not doing stuff nowadays. But
Yeah. Okay.
But what I'm saying is that I don't think there's any major discoveries in recovery outside of good old rest.
Yes.
Rest is huge. I mean, if you can have the most expensive compression boots, drink all the beet juice in the world that you want, have a keto diet, everything like that, but if you're not resting correctly, you're not going to be recovering correctly.
When I thought about this topic and we brought it up, this is exactly what I thought. I think back on my like running career and I'm like, when did I like get injured or whatever? And it all comes back to like
Rest and
after that
stress.
hard season, I should have taken a break.
Yeah.
Like
That's all about.
I was so like addicted to like, well, I got this race in March. I got to be ready for this. I need to be putting 100-mile weeks in. No, you can take a break.
Yeah.
You can take
And
2 weeks.
you were probably racing your best too when there was the less outside stress in your life and you were resting well. So just those two factors huge. Now I'm not writing off anything here because there's some very important, well-researched things here.
Yeah.
But I think if it's always good to take these things with a grain of salt whenever you're trying to be sold one of them, that some of this stuff, if you're just resting well, you can come up with similar results.
I also think that there's like nice to haves, funs to haves, but not proven.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a proven recovery. So let's talk a little bit about what's on this list. And then maybe we can kind of like pick each one apart and foam rolling is like first on the list. And it's something that I have a foam roller. I know I should do it. I actually think it's probably a really good thing to do. I don't know where the like evidence-based, information, how much research has been done on it. I'm sure there's been some research. It's very popular right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough to do effective, high-power, double-blind studies on foam rolling, though.
Right. Yeah,
This is
true.
This is what you have to think about with research is
How do you do it?
yeah. So how would you study foam roll so that you have a control group that doesn't know they're being foam rolled?
Yeah, I mean,
That's kind of tough, Yeah.
It's not going to be a double-blind study,
No.
right? It's going to be like
I'll admit
this
foam-
group did it, this group didn't do it.
Yeah.
If you have a big enough sample size.
Yeah. Now foam.
Do you guys use foam rollers?
I have
Matt?
one, and I look at it, and
So
every day
Matt
I
does
think
not. Evan?
So, oh god, I'm gonna
no.
have to be.
You're gonna-
Evan does not.
This is where I get this is where I get picked out as a hypocrite.
Wait a minute. Are we recording this?
Certain patients of mine, I will give it for specific reasons. But here's so I'll describe what me and I think people who know a little bit more about this than I do would say about foam rolling. Foam rolling provides a really strong sensory impulse to a muscle. Whenever you provide a strong sensory impulse, you're going to increase blood flow to that area.
Right.
So there you go. I mean, but is it any better than if I was to put my hands and massage somebody's muscle hard? No, I would not say it is.
Okay, thanks for the explanation, but you don't do it.
I do not do it.
Okay, Jake.
Well,
Do you foam roll?
I do during the race season.
Yeah.
And I curse at that thing more than anything
Yeah,
else.
it
I
hurts.
hate that thing.
It
My
hurts.
IT bands are terrible to begin with, and that's usually
Right.
where I would need to.
I would say stay away from it on the IT bands.
You think so?
That's my one strong opinion
interesting.
on it.
Why?
Yeah,
Here's a reason. So
Because
okay.
you hear people say, do it on the ID bands. It
So,
should hurt.
so the IT band is created from two muscles that have their tendinous attachment to them: the glute max and your TFL, your tensor fascia latae. Somebody correct my pronunciation on
know
that
what
at
that
some
is.
point.
Okay.
But that is a muscle that kind of sits in the front of the hip. So you have your glute max in the back,
Right.
TFL in the front. They attach this nice long tendinous band. Now, here's the thing: is that a long tendinous band, if you're foam rolling into that, that's like foam rolling into a car tire. Where you could be foam rolling if you want to affect the tension on that is up at your
The muscle.
glute max and your TFL region would be the two that you would hit,
Yeah.
I guess, in theory.
And I do, and I don't spend a lot of time on the IT band
Yeah,
just
no.
because I freaking hate it. So it's usually quads to try and cut
There
down
you
on
go,
the
yeah.
cramping issues that I would
Yeah.
have, and my hammies get a little tight as well. And then you'll play with
Yeah.
the calves and whatnot. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I do that. Do I do it religiously? No, I just pretty much do it during the race season when I kind of feel issues coming on.
Yeah.
I'm going to go home and do it tonight because my calves are just mangled right now.
I'll take those little handheld foam roller things, or not foam rollers, those little tiger tails as they call
just
them.
stick right over there, lean up against the wall, Matt. Go grab that.
Do it while we talk.
Sure. Let's do that.
Is it the cat? Is it the new cat?
No, it's the stick.
There's a stick.
Oh, there's actually a
There's
stick.
a
oh,
massage
what I'm
stick.
talking about right now.
Yes.
Got it.
It's right there. You go, buddy. Yeah.
Yes, that's a tiger tail. Matt's going to be tiger tailing his calves during this.
Yeah.
But yeah, because your calves have been cramping a ton lately, haven't they?
It's not been a good summer. So
Speaking, going into hydration, there is hydration on here. Yes.
Yep.
okay.
So,
do you want to
so,
tackle hydration?
so let's discuss, what would you guys say is your opinion on not opinion, but how would you hydrate? If somebody said like, hey, hydration's an issue for you, how would you tackle that?
Personally, I would start tracking my ounces taken in, and then I would up the volume then taking out through the day, and making sure that it's nice and balanced, and then paying more attention to how much I'm taking in when I'm losing more sweat or I'm losing more hydration, just by virtue of I'm not losing any right now because I'm a big sloth. But if you go out on a ride, I mean, if I'm doing like a 3 or 4 hour ride, I'm going to probably increase the volume of hydration that I take in. I mean, that's about right, isn't it?
Yeah. So like ratio of water to whatever supplement you use, what would you be thinking?
Water to supplement use.
Like whether that's Noon, like an electrolyte tablet or something of that
it's
sort.
usually 24 ounces that I'm taking in per bottle, and it's usually like scoop and a half of the Scratch Labs active hydration stuff that I'm putting in there. And, pretty much going through one of those on like a day like today, if it was 90 degrees outside and I was out riding, I'm probably taking down a full 24-ounce bottle in about 45 minutes. So it's more than a bottle an hour. So over the course of, like 4 hours, it's going to be 5 bottles.
Wow. You do a lot better than I do. I always forget to drink on the road.
On the hot days, I do really well. In the cool days up here in the Pacific Northwest, that's where I struggle. You have to remind yourself to be taking in hydration. So,
and you and I do this all the time, where we'll go out on a ride, and he'll be like, "What do you need to get in today?" And I'll be like, "The only thing I need to do is remember to drink this water." Like, we say, I mean, we do. I probably said that like at least a dozen times going out riding with you.
So have you guys ever done this? I think Lance probably saw me do this. I know that did you take it? So I had my first, I think I may have told the story before in this. I had my first ever Century years and years ago. I was saved by Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So I am very biased to Coca-Cola. Now, in my head, I completely know that I could pick 100 other either electrolyte supplements or other drinks that do the same exact thing.
No,
but
I mean, sugar, it's got sugar.
It's got easy glucose.
Yeah.
It's got low caffeine in there.
Caffeine.
I saw,
if it's cold.
Yeah, I saw Coke save a guy. Literally, he was about ready to pass out. His vision was starting to go black. When we were doing STP, the first time I did it, he was bonking that hard. He drank a full Coke at mile 165.
Come alive, right?
He changed his life in 10 minutes. He was a completely different person.
It is literally doping in a bottle. It really is.
I was standing there with that dumbfounded look, head kind of cocked to the side. I'm like, good Lord,
it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense how it's a very high dose of glucose very quick. And I think what cracks me up, do you guys remember that thing that was circulating on social media? It was the picture of the Coke bottle and says, what Coke does to you in like 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah. And it listed all these like terrible qualities that it does. And I saw a cyclist repost that, and it added this little bit on the bottom that said, save your life at the end of a bike ride. And I thought that was the most awesome little post there.
Actually, Evan and I split a Coke.
On
the group ride.
Share a Coke with a friend. Isn't that their advertisement?
We shared a Coke.
You want to know what's funny? I cannot remember the last time I had any kind of soda.
Yeah. Oh God,
honestly,
his first ride ever.
It could very well have been like 20 years ago. I don't remember the last time I had a soda.
I really only drink them on rides. Actually, now I think about it.
And I see people that do it on the rides, and I think about it, but I only think about it in the moment when I see them. But as soon as they stop drinking and it's not there anymore, I don't think about it. Out of sight, out of mind. So
yeah.
And I'm sure. I mean, if you're using something from scratch or anything like, they have very similar formulas. It's just I think Coke goes so over the top with that dose of glucose that like. For me, it's not like I'm going to take out 3 Cokes on like a 60-mile ride and be like, all right, taking these in. It's going to be like on those long, hot days.
And also the other piece of it is like a lot of us, we do triathlons or whatever, and you'll see people take them really in the recommendation is like right at the end. Like, do not
late in the run.
Very, very late in the run.
Yeah. And I do during the run. I'll take the Cokes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't do too much after this because it's a kind of a gut buster,
It
right?
is.
So it's like this
It's
is
very
not this is
acidic.
not a performance drink that you want to be like regularly using. This is an emergency situation, kind of like.
And once you go to it, you can't go away from it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the end of an Ironman for me. And I definitely feel like in each Ironman I probably had some sort of Coca-Cola at the end of the race.
Yeah.
So when I get back and turn myself inside out, we're miles and miles
I'm
deep
grabbing
into a
you
ride.
Coke.
You give me a Coke and
I'm
remind
actually
me.
going to carry one in my pocket on the first ride I do with Jake back. Like, Jake, you feeling a little tired?
Sneak it into his bottle.
Share a Coke with a friend.
It's only been 20 years since the last drink.
Maybe we could get a Coca-Cola advertisement. I feel like all big
they might
things.
Sponsor. They might sponsor us.
So do any of you guys ice or do ice baths after a long or tenuous workout or a race to prevent injury?
I have a very cold pool at my house.
Oh, yeah?
And I jump in after every ride almost.
Good.
Even when it's like stupid cold.
Yeah. No, I bet you that's, I used to do like real ice baths in college and they hurt so bad.
Yes. Actually, that's why I don't do them anymore.
Right.
Because I
very
have
painful.
so many bad memories of ice baths in
I
college.
feel like, you see the research on it and they'll suggest it and then, for 10 years and then 10 years later they'll be like, no.
Couldn't agree with you more.
And
Yeah.
then it's
It
like,
jumps back and
then
forth
it goes,
so much.
and now they're saying like, yeah, but it doesn't even have to be that cold. And I just feel like the research is kind of wishy-washy on that.
I saw something recently. There were people getting really passionate about that it is actually detrimental. Now, I completely think that's ridiculous because I don't know. I think
if you're reducing swelling, that's good and bad, right? Like it's like, well, swelling is blood flow to a particular area that's damaged that needs to be repaired.
And here's the thing
right?
is it doesn't. So when you're talking about swelling to an area, that's not always like the peripheral vasoconstriction that you'll get from that. So vasoconstriction being obviously like when the vessels in an area start to decrease in diameter there. There's no good research to show that there's any deep vasoconstriction from just slapping an ice pack on your arm. Now, if you're in an ice bath or if you're in, really want to bring your core temp down, there's also some other stuff that comes with that. You got to be really careful when you do that. But I mean, here's why I always point to with a lot of these like immediate after race sort of recovery things is there was a certain amount of damage done to your body during that race. Very little that you do in that post 1 to 2 hours outside of taking in good nutrients and trying to rest or do a light cool down and then rest. Nothing else is really going to speed up that recovery. Your body has to go through a certain rebuilding process. You icing after that is not like all of a sudden you're going to pop up and be like, time to race a 5K.
Yeah.
Like your body has gone through some damage.
Yeah.
But what it does do, and Matt, this is probably what you remember, even though it's painful at that point,
right?
It's sensory. It's decreases your sensory threshold at that point. So it's basically sensory deprivation at that point. You get up, and I bet your quads feel a little bit better, so you can walk around.
They were numb. Yeah,
there you go. They were numb.
Legs
yeah.
were numb.
There you go.
So, in college, you try and do whatever options you have our coach was pretty cool. He was like, you want to do it? Go for it. If not, no big deal. It wasn't a requirement.
Yep. Yeah. There you go.
I've always been more reactively using ice as opposed to proactively using it to try and avert injury. So, and it's really just more of like, when you're dealing with like massive amounts of inflammation and pain and whatnot, it's like make this go away, make the pain stop.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a difference between like the natural inflammatory process after a hard workout and like what Jake's body went through after that. Like that's
different. Yeah.
I mean, his body was responding to an inflammatory process, but that's a trauma inflammatory versus a muscular breakdown. Yeah.
Okay.
And one of our things you mentioned, you did touch on, which was doing a proper cool down. That's on our hit list here. So I definitely believe in it.
I'll do it.
I don't know where the research is on that particular subject, but it seems there's a lot of the stuff where it's like another thing on here is stretching, where it's like a lot of the research is like, there's no real correlation with that and having less injuries. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do it. It feels kind of good to stretch typically after a workout or something like that. I enjoy a stretch. I like cooling down. I feel like it's good for me. I can't point to any evidence.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a couple that I'll point to that we can all kind of talk to together here. So strength training, cross training, cool down. I think, and I'll throw stretching in there too. I think stretching and strengthening for the longest time have been separated. And I really, at least in my opinion, and like I said, a lot of guys who are a lot smarter than me, opinion would be, if you are stretching somewhere, so let's say you're an endurance athlete and, I want more hip extension. I want to have a longer, more powerful stride as a runner. Or I don't want my hips to lock up on the bike. I want to be able to get into that time trial position without feeling like I'm dying, just to get through that cycle. It's not about, okay, I need to sit here and stretch my hamstrings all day and take that tiger tail and dig it into my hip flexors.
Right.
You need to also strengthen and not only strengthen, waken up your neural system in those ranges.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's not used to getting into that range. So the reason you're tight is not because, that tissue won't let you get there. Sometimes it's your body. So your brain communicating with your muscles does not want to let your body get into that range because it hasn't been there before. It's not comfortable there. Our body, like the one governing rule of your body, it's going to protect itself at all costs.
Yeah.
Unless you're a professional cyclist and then something got not developed at some point in your life and you'll jump on a bike after a fracture. But
yeah, this is why I want to come see you, because I feel like I have hamstring tightness and stuff like that, and it's like I need to do like strength stretching. If that's not a real term, but I just made it up.
I'll take
and
that
it's like
term. That's
it's kind of
fine.
like
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where it's like I know if I work through exercises that I can get where I want to be.
Yeah.
And it's like if I just like throw my leg up on the couch and stretch, that's not gonna cut it. Maybe that's feels good after a workout.
Yeah.
But no, that's not. I don't think that's gonna actually help me get where I need to be.
Yeah.
So
Especially with the kind of performance that you want. It's just, I think for whatever reason, for a long time, I think those two were separated. And I think those of us in the strength and conditioning / physical therapy world that are kind of addressing this now would say you got to be functional in those ranges.
That was what I was just going to throw out there.
There you go.
It's got to be functional.
It's the F word.
Exactly.
I like the we call it the F word in physical therapy, but it is. It's got to be functional. And I have a good buddy who always talks about this. He says, because we'll argue all the time, and this is a big argument in the strength and conditioning world too, is do you train specificity or variability? So do you take an Usain Bolt and do you just train him for what he's got to do? Or do you give his neural system and his body variability so that he can avoid injury?
I think you want to be careful because you can go extreme on variability, which, so we had this.
We're not going to have him be a swimmer or anything.
Well,
but yeah.
I had this discussion with someone and they were like, oh, don't you think that, that these elite runners should be doing like a hard hour of yoga? And I was like, and this was like a yoga instructor, and they were like telling me that this is, he was like, you're a big runner. Like, what's the story? Don't you think they should be doing this? And I was like, I just told her, I was like, if they could spend that hour running, then that's what they should be doing. So it's and this was my piece of the puzzle where it's like, absolutely, that would help them, especially if they could do some light yoga, that would be great. But, really like, she was talking about some, marathon people that were in her yoga class stuff like that. I was like, if they're trained for a marathon, they need to be, increasing mileage and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, if you're spending an hour doing yoga, then you're not spending an hour doing something else. And she wanted to like push them hard in yoga. And I just feel like that's a pretty significant effort. What do they need to be doing? They need to be focusing on those key workouts in a particular week. It all depends on the person too, right? Like, in some people, like having that variability, having that like kind of healthy feeling lifestyle, it's a lot more important than actual marathon time performance stuff. And other people, like, they want to do what's going to make them fastest. And so,
no, right. It's all about what your goal is, and you got to think about it. So this goes back to Lance's. You can only juggle 3 things. Was that
That's
the
right.
thing? So
there's got to be some balance.
Your cup can only hold so much. Yeah. So if you want to run a sub, let's say 2:40 marathon, which would be moving for anybody listening to this, that has to be the bulk of what that cup's going to be. And if you're doing 4 1-hour hard, let me put it this way: if me and Lance went into 4 1-hour hot yoga sessions, do you think we would have rode that well on Saturday?
No,
I wouldn't have. I would have been toast on the side of the road, and 2 Cokes
I would have made it 10 minutes and then drinking a Coke in the.
We would have piddled back.
But you might be, in some ways, you might be healthier, right? So it's like it's that tricky piece, right? Where it's like you don't want to say something's not healthy, and in some ways, all these things like marathon racing, Ironman racing, these things are not healthy.
We're going to get metaphysical here. What is healthy?
God.
Are we going to go this far off the rails? No, but that's a good question, because what is, so to
Right.
different people, healthy is, think of it this way. So would most people call your average yoga instructor a healthy person? I would think yes.
Think they would, yes. Yeah.
Would your average yoga instructor, and I'm saying average, run a fast 5K?
Yeah.
No.
Not even
5K?
close.
No.
Not 5K, not marathon, not 10K. I mean,
I very rarely see those people training for that kind of intensity.
Yeah, it's tough because then
I'm going to get an Arizona Missions call out from somebody who's like, I ran 15:30 as a yoga instructor.
I'm sure that there is some fast yoga.
But I'm saying your average. Yeah.
And then what is good? You know, right?
And then do you
13
call
minutes is a good 5K.
Yeah. Do you
And
call
there's
a
not
Mo
lot-
Farah a healthy person?
He seems pretty healthy. I think he
would
does
say
a
that.
lot of. I think he does a lot of that like variability training that we were
Yeah,
talking
he
about
does.
earlier, which is cool. He also is a professional athlete, and he has a lot more time to devote to.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that's one of the cool things that Salazar's program. Alberto Salazar is the head coach for a group of Nike athletes. He was Mo Farah's coach. I think he kind of still is. He's probably at least helping assist with his workouts, and he really believes in some of that variability training.
Yeah.
So I that's not to say that they would subtract any mileage whatsoever, because they are doing 100+ mile weeks most likely.
But they really focus on
But
recovery too.
They do recovery
when they're not training. Their
and
legs
then
up sleeping.
They do
Yeah.
some interesting stuff where they'll like hit a hard workout on the track or whatever, and then they go do weights afterwards.
Yeah.
So the weights is secondary to their particular track workout, but they get in some pretty interesting functional training.
Yeah.
So it's good.
I'm going to bring this discussion kind of into focus here.
Yeah.
You know,
We are all over the place. Please do.
Yes. You know, on this list, what are like the 2 best things
Right.
that you could be
Ooh,
doing?
yeah, that's good.
For injury prevention. What do you
Let's
think
go.
you could be doing? What are
Let's
the
go.
2 best
Lance,
things?
you go first, and then we'll go to Jake, and then Matt and me.
For me, it's nutrition and proper recovery. Is that
Okay.
even on there?
Nutrition
We'll
is
say
nutrition
rest.
on here?
Yeah,
let's,
rest.
let's mark
I
it down
think,
for
yeah.
rest. Okay,
For me, it's
nutrition and rest.
nutrition and rest. That's
Jake.
Gosh, Lance, that's a tough one to beat right there. If I were to deviate from that, I'd probably say strength training and rest.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking too. It's
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm missing that strength training piece. So rest is definitely, I feel like,
Especially for a cyclist, we're in such a linear sport, and we do the same thing repetitively over and over and over again. And for us to be successful, you do have to have good muscle balance. You do need to have good postural muscles. You need to have good core stability. You need to, develop yourself so that you can have strength, so that while you're going on doing, these 3, 4, 5 hour rides of the same thing, your body's not going to break down. So I kind of have to lean that direction, but I don't know. I'm gonna say not 2, because you say we can juggle 3 things. So I'm gonna take 3. I'm gonna call an audible here and say rest, nutrition, and strength training are probably my biggest things. Yeah.
I agree with those. I think that the other ones that are on this list, for the listeners out there that aren't actually looking at the list, that it's not in front of them, but maybe we can post this. A lot of the other items are like foam rolling, Normatec compression boots, ice bath. Some of the stuff, it's like it's not super scientifically proven to work for you, but we know rest works. We know nutrition is important. I mean, these are just things that are critical. I think strength training is a piece that I personally am neglecting, so it's kind of high on my list of things to do. So yeah, I kind of agree with Jake's list.
So I get 3 too then.
Sure.
Okay, I get 3.
Let's hear it.
Rest. So that's funny. We all agree on rest.
Yeah.
And this is the point I was just trying to make earlier. Is not that like I think that they were better athletes back then, but rest was just as available in the 1800s as it is now.
Yeah.
So I'll go rest. I'll say cross training, and I'm talking from a cyclist point of view, not a triathlon. Cyclists getting in things like runs. It doesn't have to be run, but bone health's very when we talk about
Bone density.
I know it sucks for him, but Nibali's T10 fracture. T10's not a terribly common area to fracture.
Yeah.
And that tells me he's been a professional for a long time. Yeah. Bone health becomes an issue with cyclists because it's not a weight-bearing activity. So talking from the anatomy there's something called Wolff's Law. Mm-hmm. And what it means is that any strain against a bone will react, basically. So as that strain increases, the bone will react and get stronger.
Yeah. In the same breath, it's the same thing with like not a blister, but a callus on your hand.
Yes.
That's the same.
Your body will react
exactly.
to it.
So
Yeah.
same thing with the bone.
Exactly. It's kind of interesting how the body reacts to that everywhere. Yep. But yeah, so you talk about bone health being so important in cyclists. That's where cross training, strength training, things like that are important.
Yeah.
And then my third, I'm going to throw one not on this list. I'm going to say there needs to be mental health talked about in here.
Yeah.
Now that can mean any number of things. I know that's like a Pandora's box to open up, but I think when we talk about these sports where people are training with jobs 12, 15 hours a week, there's a mental recovery that's got to come into, especially for injury help. Because here's the thing is seeing a lot of endurance athletes injured, I'll tell you one thing that really encapsulates all of them is the mental health aspect gets tough during that injury process. It really does. And I think that healing is is just a hard thing to kind of nail down
Well,
to
you've
just the
talked about
physical
this
aspect.
quite a few times where you've cortisol levels spike and all this stuff of stress and how horrible it is for you. And then other parts of the things that we've talked about previously, go back and listen to our podcast. But, we've talked about like, hey, if you do this and this and this, they're not necessarily training stress, but, they're just as equal in value to, well, not value, but devaluing perhaps, when you go on a work trip or, you fly somewhere, like that's a stressor on your system.
Fly to China and do a marathon running upstairs.
On the Great Wall of
on the Great Wall of China.
Watch 5 soccer games in one day.
And there you go. Yeah.
There's a
soccer's
glaring
stressful, man.
there's a glaring omission to this list about injury prevention, and that is don't crash or get hit by a car.
Well, say that's the last one. Bike handling.
Bike handling, that is on there.
handling.
See, but that doesn't make any sense because the best bike handler here is Jake. So that's,
I wish I could have bike handled my way out of that one.
That would have been amazing.
Bike fits are on there as well, and that's a good way
Yes.
to definitely decrease your chance of injury. And I've actually, like, when I first got into road riding, man, I dealt with some like really bad neck strains because I was just not properly fit to my bike, and I still never went and got a formal fit, but I did work with somebody that helped me make some tweaks, and it basically solved a lot of my problems. So that's another good place to go. And bike handling is on there, I highly recommend it. I talk to people about this all the time, especially people that are very like road centric and don't have any experience riding off road. Get on a mountain bike and go ride off road, because it teaches you how to throw your body, position yourself, and deal with things in the path that could throw you down. Where like it's like watching Peter Sagan versus any other little 140-pound wafy guy that's only ever ridden a road bike in his life. Sagan's got a very rich background in mountain bike and cyclocross, and the guy can just throw the bike around like it's nobody's business. And he just does not go down. That speaks volumes for what I'm saying right here. Get on a mountain bike or even a cross bike and go ride off road. You don't have to go nuts. You don't have to go crazy, but get a couple rides in and have that be a consistent thing that you're consuming on a
it's great for like core control and strength too when we're talking about that.
And
if
I
you just
know
want to stay on the bike.
when I get off my mountain bike for a period of time, and I've been very road centric, and I'm like, I got to get back on the mountain bike for so many other reasons than this, but just I got to get back on there. You'll go out and you'll do like a little 2-hour ride, and you come back and you feel like your triceps, you feel your traps, you feel your back muscles, you feel your core, you feel like your glutes a little bit more. Everything just gets a different kind of workout. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I got to get back out and do that more often.
That's more than like just your quads. Just toast.
So
also, there's one more little thing with the bike handling too that I thought was cool, and I'm going to bring it up because on the group ride, it's always fun whenever we throw into these. When you get into the pace lining, it's I will say I think it's a slightly intimidating thing for younger cyclists to get into.
Yes,
but I'm going to call who's our young high schooler, Paul first.
Yes,
correct?
he's 19.
So
just turned 20.
Rode with Paul in the ride that we did
ride,
in February. Like way back in February, I remember we got into a big pace line. And he was a little bit skittish at that time in there. Great mountain biker. Paul's an awesome mountain biker. We get on the road, he was a little bit skittish in that pace line. And I kind of forgot coming from, I've been pace line since I was 18, like a long time now. That kind of first feelings of really being in there tight with people right at your elbows when you're going fast. And it was cool to see him this time around last Saturday when we did it. He was just smooth as heck. Just butter through there. He's strong as heck right now.
There was a moment during the ride where Evan and I were actually riding next to each other in the pace line. We were up front, and we were chatting about something, and our bikes actually touched, like hood to hood, brake level to, we like touched each other. But neither of us freaked out or moved or jerked. We just slowly eased back apart because we were like we literally touched
like a sunset coming down, just nice and easy. But yeah, I think it's just getting into those. I had an older cycling friend back in Ohio used to always say, he was like, and this was when we used to go on these intense military guy group rides where he always said, the more uncomfortable I can make you on the bike, the more comfortable you'll be in the future. So he would do everything to make you just as uncomfortable as possible. But just like Jake said, just like bike handling's huge for injury prevention because it keeps you off the pavement. So.
I know a lot of people that have gotten hurt for just dumb reasons. Just you hit something like that, you really went down because of that. That
like
sucks. I'm sorry, but it's like, man, you could have so easily avoided that. So How about one last thing on this? How about some chamois
Massive
cream?
topic,
Is
yeah.
that some good
chamois
cream?
You know, this may be something people don't
Injury
use.
prevention.
Yes.
Or people
Injury
don't
prevention,
use regularly.
chamois cream, yes.
So how? Okay, this could be an uncomfortable topic, but how do you guys use the chamois cream? Do you put it on your body or do you
Liberally.
put it on your chamois?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
You guys put it on. Oh wow, I'm gonna sound so dumb. I've never actually put it on my chamois before.
Oh, really?
That was
I
the
do.
thing.
You
That's
put it
why.
called
That's
chamois
why
cream?
I
I never
wanted
do.
to bring it up
Yeah.
because I always thought, okay, you take a dollop and you just smear it in your uncomfortable spots, right?
That's what I do. Yeah.
But
Does anybody use Aquaphor here? You know, like what you put on babies' rashes.
yeah.
Works awesome.
But that's the other thing is I read somewhere that you can just rub it into your chamois
Yeah, that's
instead
what
of
they-
putting it on
I'm
yourself.
pretty sure that's what they do as far as the pros go, because I watched this documentary and they had like a guy that would put the chamois cream on the
No
chamois
On the chamois.
for the riders.
Are
on-
you kidding
And I was
me?
like, that's nice. They got a guy that does that for you.
Whose job is that? Can you imagine, like,
It
you're
was-
you're
it
like
was
first
super
year,
sketchy.
your first year with the team. They're like, all right, buddy,
You're the chamois
you're on
moistener.
chamois cream, chamois boy, come over here.
I feel like that's the punishment. That's
You're
the-
chamois boy
You're
now.
chamois boy.
I've
Yeah.
always put it on myself, and then I've always put it on the spots where I've experienced the most contact, and just
Double
make sure
up,
the double
yeah.
up, on it, and that did the trick.
It helps.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that until 4 years into cycling.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't put it on more than twice. You're playing with Lance.
Now, Matt,
Yeah.
where for triathlon running, where are your hot spots for running?
Okay, so
And swimming.
it's
We throw swimming
interesting,
in there.
right? Like you come from running, the hot spots are like thighs.
Yep.
So you can use like a Body Glide product there. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
deodorant stick, and you just rub it on your thighs, and that's a lifesaver for sure. And then cycling is different, right? It's much more like on like where
Right
the saddle hits the crotch region,
Undercarriage.
undercarriage,
Mm-hmm.
and so so it's different. And
pelvic floor area.
for a long time I would use Body Glide because I was coming from a running background, and I would just put it on the chamois, and that worked fine. But then I switched over to using. Gosh, I always forget the name of what was the one that I had like menthol in it.
D's
It
nuts.
was
D's nuts.
D's nuts.
So I've used, I've used a couple other stuff, and what's the butter
Greatest
one?
product name.
There's one that's just
Chamois
called
butter.
chamois butter.
Just
Chamois
chamois
butter.
The chamois butter is the one I think
butter, yeah.
butter. And I'll like squirt it on the chamois, and then I'll use the chamois to rub it into itself, basically, which I feel like that's good because then your hands don't end up with a whole bunch of junk all over them.
See, but what I do every time is if it's on my hands, I just take it real quick and rub it
rub down the
very hard
legs.
onto my thighs,
Yeah.
and then it's good. You just wash
Waste
your
not,
hands real
want
quick,
not.
boom,
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
And I always wonder like how much different is this stuff than like I don't know hand moisturizer
Right.
face. Like it's probably similar, right?
it's
Like I'm
probably
like
very
except
similar.
for it costs
Yeah.
like 8 times as much. Like so I'm wondering like, well, can I get away with just
That's
I don't
why
know,
you can
whatever.
just get Vaseline.
Yeah, well, no, Vaseline will kill your clothes. Like it's just hard on your
Oh, it
clothes.
will?
Well, you can.
Well, then just put it on
Learn
you.
this. You need to learn this for yourself.
Oh,
but
man.
it like I had this really nice like tech shirt that I loved a long time ago, and I was like doing a marathon, so I put the Vaseline on the nips.
Yep.
And
can't run a
like I
marathon
might
without
even
that.
still have this shirt. It's like this Alabama team issued shirt or whatever, and it still has these like Vaseline stains. 2 of them. I'll wear it
right up your
if I can find this shirt, I'll wear it to the next podcast.
Yes.
And you guys can you'll just be staring at the headlights the whole time. You're like, yep,
Oh my God.
there's a Vaseline stain right there. But that's my marathon PR. I ran
Really?
that. Yeah, I ran that shirt, and I was
So
like,
I got
sacrifice that.
I have a hot spot like right on the back of my tricep too. I'll always have to like glide that area.
Body glide it up.
Probably just the way that my arms swing through, I guess.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
one of my best marathon running pictures that I have of me. I'm looking all fantastic and happy because I'm running really well, and all you see is the bloody nipples behind me. It's not me.
God,
It's the
bloody
guy behind me.
oh.
You didn't see it.
Was it like a rainy day or something?
Yeah.
Why did nobody
Okay,
tell him?
so-
Somebody
was
should have
just-
told him.
just dripping down his shirt.
Yeah.
It was
Oh my
terrible.
God.
Why don't you just take your shirt off at that point?
He probably didn't notice, or at that point.
Yeah, you're so
Sometimes you
numb
don't-
at
yeah.
that point.
Think
you're
so?
not even gonna-
Oh.
yeah.
But
You'd
you
think
know,
you'd feel that,
it's
but-
the rainy days. I mean, like if you're not a marathoner or whatever it is, and you go watch a marathon, and it happens to be slightly rainy or there's any moisture, like you see this like parade of disgusting.
Yes.
And it's really jarring if you're not like a marathoner, you don't realize that this is a situation, this is a real thing. Then you're just thinking, oh my God, what are these people doing?
Yeah.
This is
So,
messed
like
up.
the bloody nipples and the people like crapping their pants. And
Yeah. You're like, this is the
Folks
worst.
listening out there, this is just another reason why cycling is much better than any other sport.
I feel like
Jake.
I feel like we're just making a really good
Jake.
case to not run right now.
Thank you.
But
Pretty
even
much.
even worse, do you run Olympic triathlons without shoes?
I
Or
You mean without socks?
No,
without
no,
socks,
no,
without
no,
shoes. That'd
I
be terrible.
actually
Without
knew
socks.
I knew what you meant, even though
Yeah.
I was starting to answer. I don't because I blister and so I'm like, I'll just take the extra time.
So my second 73, I did without socks. I was like, yeah, I'll save myself 4 seconds in transition. Oh my
Bad
God.
idea.
Oh, I bled through the shoe. Didn't notice till after the race. Took the shoe off and I was like, I had like a second-degree burn on the inside of my toe.
It all depends. Like if it's your A race in an Olympic, I don't
Raced
have
well,
a
I
lot
didn't
of
care. Yeah.
right. I don't have a lot of Olympic races that mean that much to me, so
Yeah.
I'm just like whatever. Put some socks on.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that, And someday I'm gonna be like, oh, I need to have a PR in the Olympic. Like it's worth it. Like I want to try and do something, break 2 hours or something like that. Would be like kind of that cool goal. I think for me personally, I know you've
10
done it,
seconds
but
matters at that point.
Yeah. It'd be hard.
All right, that's enough bloody skin talk.
Thank you, Lance.
Worst.
Thank you.
Worst.
Everybody use chamois butter.
This
All
is
right.
the worst.
All right, guys, let's move on. Hot seat time.
Oh,
We're going to do
yes.
the hot seat.
The
So,
hot seat.
So
everybody here has a question. None of us have shared them with one another, and we are going to run around the table. And let's start with Lance.
So my hot seat question comes from a listener.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So this is from Ryan Lee from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Ryan Lee or Ryan Leaf?
Ryan Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Not Ryan
was gonna-
Leaf.
I was going to say, let's move on to the next question. I've got
We have so many young
bad taste in
listeners
my
right
mouth.
now who are like, who's Ryan
Ryan
Leaf?
Leaf, yeah. Disgraced quarterback
Yeah,
from Washington State and went to
quarterback.
my beloved Chargers when they were still in San
Yeah.
Diego and crap the bed.
Yeah, that's pretty
Anyhow, sorry.
Poor guy.
So this is from Ryan Lee. He asked, what are your worst mechanic blunders as a cyclist?
That's a really good question.
He
That's
brought this
very
up
good.
because I have a very bad blunder. When I was, Ryan's a friend of mine that lives in Vegas, and I would go visit him, and I would take my bike with me. And one of the first times I took my bike with me, you have to take it apart to pack it up. And once I got my bike together, I went for a ride, and I had to take it back apart, and I could not remember which way to turn the crank to take your pedals off. And I was committed to the wrong way.
Oh no.
Super tight.
Why is this so tight? And I just
backwards on the-
stripped the
oh,
pedal
no.
right
Yep.
out. So
Yep.
I completely ruined the crank because I was trying to push on that pedal. And it's hard, it's both the pedals. One is the right way, and the other is the opposite way.
It's not easy if you don't do it a lot.
No,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
easy if you don't
Just
do it a
YouTube
lot.
it,
So
folks.
it is
Just
a very,
YouTube it.
it's a normal screw up, and I ruined a pair of cranks because I screwed up trying to take my pedal on and off. Thanks for the reminder, Ryan. I totally forgot about that.
I would say this. I would say, Ryan, this is an awesome question. Thank you very much for submitting it to the group because I think it's fantastic.
This
it's a
is
really good
good.
question. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll tackle it. I have like a quote unquote super bike. This my triathlon bike, which means it's I got it used, but it would be an expensive bike, and it's absolutely horrible to work on. One of the things is it had like with these super triathlon bikes, what they love to do is like hide the brakes from the wind,
Integrate everything.
and which means like first of all, you're not gonna have any stopping power whatsoever. I mean, who cares about braking, I guess? But the next piece is like, okay, well, if you need to adjust the brakes, you're SOL. Like you just can't. Which if you guys work on bikes, like you need to adjust the brakes all the time. So me being me and not being like a super mechanic, like I like take apart everything and like probably spent like 3 days trying to put it back together, like literally way too much time. And I think I like had it good and it was working or whatever for a while, and I finally took it to like a Trek dealership or whatever. This is a Trek Speed concept, and the guy like works on it for a little bit, and he was like, "This screws on backwards right here in the brake." And he was like, and he like flipped it around or something like that and like fixed it. And then all of a sudden, like all like the little pieces like all came together and it was so much easier. And I was like,
one screw.
And I told him, and I was like, yeah, it's my fault. And I was like, I have spent hours and hours trying to like work on this thing. And it was just like one screw. And it was like the way it went was just like, it's supposed to go this way. And it was on, like the complete opposite way. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was just so much of my life. And it's like, I mean, and the thing never broke, like it didn't break as well because it was like not quite right, the brakes. And you want to be able to brake people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It was a
triathlon, you could probably
rear
do it.
brake. It was a rear brake.
Put your feet down.
Yeah.
Just no turnarounds on the course.
I had told a story a few weeks ago about when I had front derailleur issues, and me and my 3 buddies, we could not figure out how to adjust the front derailleur because we don't have.
I remember this. Yeah.
Right, we couldn't. That was another blunder that I had, that we just could not adjust the front derailleur right because none of us knew how to do it. We had it in the wrong gear, in the wrong chain ring. It was just all a big comedy barriers. So I learned how to do that properly. Guess what happened on Saturday?
Oh, you need to adjust?
Somebody
dropped
a
it.
teammate.
Was
it was Kim.
Kim, yeah.
Yeah, Kim was having trouble with her front derailleur. It wouldn't go into the big chain ring, and because
was that
Lance
you
to the
who
rescue.
did that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was
had
Lance who fixed that.
Well, it was me and Michael and Dr. Mike. Yeah.
Is this the limiter screws on the front derailleur?
No, it was not. It was the cable came loose.
Okay.
So we had to adjust the cable right, and because I knew it had to be in the big chain ring in the biggest cog, so you had the most stretch. We had to reset the cable, and boom, we did it in like 30 seconds.
You have to reset its furthest point away.
Did you hop on YouTube to learn about the proper place to set the cabling or how to do that, or did you?
No,
just the internet.
No,
yeah,
eyeball.
Yeah, we just eyeballed it. I said, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, we'll skip Jake because we all know Jake's a perfect mechanic. So
I do have one little oops, but I'll come back to that
in
after.
in his long illustrious career, one oops. In my not long and very not illustrious career as a bike mechanic for 2 years at Go Fast Veritas Bike Shop in Lebanon, Ohio, as I was known as probably the mechanic that you didn't want to be working on your bike. And in my defense, the guy who owned the place, who's still a great friend of mine, Bob Duncan, me and him once had this mountain bike, and this guy was having braking problems with the hydraulic braking. And we scoured the YouTube on how to bleed this brake and redo it. And I swear we were there 2 hours after close, just so mad and pissed off at this mountain bike. And finally, it just came down to the fact that like we weren't patient enough with it, because you got to like once you put in all the fluid or whatever, you got to like break it enough to make sure you clear out all the bubbles. We were just never clearing out the bubbles.
Yep.
And it was like, just bubble after and every single time we do it, it'd be like, okay, break, nothing. It'd be like, you got to be kidding. You would like it just lay into me for a second. It was, if anyone has a mountain bike and needs help with the brakes, don't send it to me.
Look elsewhere.
Yeah, make me your
Evan
last
Price.
option.
Yeah.
Not so nice.
I once wasn't paying attention when I was going through doing my bike. Sometimes I'll just do a complete teardown, put it all back together, and I was doing this before a race. And it was just a little local race. It wasn't a big deal. And mistakenly used grease because I was rocking out to music and not paying attention, probably hungry and a million other things. And I greased my seat post instead of putting carbon paste on there. And then I didn't ride the bike. And then I went out to the race, and it was fine for the first 15, 20 minutes that I was on the bike because I wasn't riding hard. Race starts, and all of a sudden, bottomed
down.
out all the way to the bottom, and I was like BMX style for the rest of the race. I'm like,
when you bottomed out, were you like, wait a minute? That wasn't carbon paste. That was.
I had that moment of realization
you
right
knew
there.
right
I'm
away.
like recounting back through my mind, hitting rewind. I'm like, wait a second, and I stopped there. I'm like, oh crap! I put grease on there, not carbon base. You freaking idiot! And if you look at the Park Tool, their grease and their carbon paste, their tubes look almost identical. You have to
pay attention.
Pay attention, yeah. So. And it was at the time that I'd gotten a new thing of grease, and usually you can tell the grease one because it ends up turning black over the course of time because you're taking stuff out of there all the time. And then the carbon paste one is always nice and shiny, and it was new, and I just grabbed the wrong one and wasn't thinking. Even when I put it on, I'm like, oh, put it in and just go.
Yeah,
I was more concerned with.
How'd you take the grease off?
Eventually, I just basically pulled it out and isopropyl alcohol.
isopropyl alcohol. Yeah. Okay.
So that was my knucklehead move.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, though, Ryan.
Thank you,
that was a
Ryan.
good one.
Ryan, that was
Yeah.
good.
All right, Evan.
Okay.
Hot seat, baby.
Will Thomas have one bad day before the end of the Tour de France?
This is a good question. I like this one.
So I'm not going to say is he
Super
going
G.
to win, because this is also asking if he's going to win. Is he going in his Grand Tour career? He is always known to have at least one bad day since he has been
you know what?
competitive.
He lost one of his domestiques today. Did you
Yeah.
hear about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. What's his name?
Saran?
Yeah, something
Saran,
like that
I
for
think. The
punching
young guy?
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, the young guy.
He threw a punch.
What a!
Through
I
punch-
don't like calling people out on
spectator
here,
or-
but there are a lot
No.
of people who say that kid's a jerk. He's an idiot. He's a
Another
hothead idiot.
another tour rider. Yeah.
Okay.
One of
We're gonna have to get called on errors and omissions, but I want to say
no.
movie star. I think it's movie
No,
star,
it
but I'm
wasn't.
not positive.
I can't.
I'm already on errors and
remember.
omissions. Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't
okay.
like the fact that he was trying to get his GC guy into the break, and so he rode up on him and smacked him in the helmet.
Oh my gosh.
And they booted
Yeah.
him.
Get out of here.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, is he going to have just one bad day?
Is he gonna have one bad day coming up in the Pyrenees?
He's put forth a massive effort. He's got a rest day coming up that we just talked about rest.
Yeah.
So, my gosh, Sky is such a machine. I'm gonna, as much as I want to say yes, I'm gonna say no. I think he's gonna slip, but I don't think he's gonna have a bad day.
So then I'll follow up to Jake here because I'm gonna put him on the hot seat even more. Does Froome make up the difference to him in the time trial? It's a 30K time trial.
It's just not. Such tough questions
1
here
minute
today.
Yeah.
It was a hot seat. This is tough.
Because who are the great time trialists?
Demulon,
Yep.
Thomas, and Froome.
Yes.
It's
and
really-
all
Uno, dos,
three.
tres.
It's
yeah.
The time trial is going to be a very fun time trial to watch.
I think just like
Even
we
though
were
time
watching
trials.
Greg Van Avermaet wear yellow for BMC, knowing full well that it was going to be the Richie Port show, I still think it's going to be
Gonna be
Froome that's
Chris
going to
Froome.
come back. That's going to be the yellow. And if he for some reason rides out of his mind and he gets the yellow jersey, I will be ecstatic. Not that I dislike Froome, but I just think it's cool to see somebody else and to have it change. And
Yeah.
I think Froome is. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a stand-up guy, and I think that he'll support that. He'll do what's best for the team, not necessarily what's best for Froome. So I would like to see that personally, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Lance Romance on the hot seat.
Nope, he's not going to have a bad day.
Will he win?
I'm saying yes at this point.
Okay.
But I also
Nice.
picked
Good.
Nibley to win, and
I picked
But that-
Iran,
yeah,
so
but
we
that
already
was
know
a good
our picks are
choice.
gone. Our picks are,
Yeah.
are gone,
Yeah.
except for Matt's. Matt's pick is still there.
I think
You said
Iran-
Froome, didn't you?
Yeah, I did
Dan
say
Martin.
that.
So
Yeah.
but he's out. I mean, he's not going to.
Well, it's,
10th,
you
isn't he, I
know,
think?
we were the question that was more like who do you like and who do you know?
Yeah.
It was a little softball question. So
Yeah. Matt, does he have a bad day?
I think he does have a bad day, and I think he's been riding really hard. And I think there's still a good bit of climbing to do.
Yep.
There's. I mean, I actually really, really like him. I would love for him to win it. I think I think he's made a lot of fans on this particular. I mean, if you watch the interviews, like he's just a stand-up guy.
Yeah, and everybody speaks nicely.
Yeah, they
good
like
good
him.
about him
Yep.
from
Yeah.
all teams. Everybody likes him.
teammate.
Yeah,
Good teammate.
I think
yeah.
he's really cool. I think he can time trial. So
Yep, he can.
I don't necessarily think that'll be his bad day. I think it might be in the Pyrenees. And the only reason I think he might have a bad day is because he's worked really hard in the mountains already, and I'm wondering if that's going to play a little bit of a role as we get into kind of the third week.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna pick his bad day right here.
Okay.
It's gonna be this Wednesday coming up on that 65 kilometer stage. That is over 60% climbing the entire stage.
all right, so this podcast may potentially come out on
on
Wednesday.
that day.
On Wednesday?
We're all
Yeah.
going to be eating crow, and we won't know it.
People could be listening to this as I'm wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
But here's my prediction on that. Movie Star has not made their big team move yet. Movie Star is a team
You don't think?
chock full of climbers. Here's the thing. Froome will be able to stay with Movie Star's move. Thomas will not, is my bet.
That's what you think is going to happen.
Yeah, Quintana
think
came out today and he was saying that he's
move
gearing
coming.
up for the Pyrenees. That was where he wanted to make his big impression and make his big. His
I
big
think
push.
him. I think basically Quintana's going to go off early in that stage. I think Sky's going to have to follow. That early pace is going to hurt Thomas. I think he's a great engine, just like Dumoulin. I think Dumoulin's going to get destroyed on that stage too. It's too punchy.
Well, and I could see Froome getting distanced a little bit, but he hangs on. I've seen him. We've all
Froome
seen
will
him.
stay with it, yeah.
We've all seen him just being like, "Hey, fight." He'll fight to
oh
the
yeah,
end. So.
he will. He will.
Oh, good stuff.
Yep.
Number 2.
Oh, that's
dang
number
it!
two.
Exceptional stuff. Exceptional
so
stuff.
Close.
I get my one retraction. Matt, hot seat baby.
Yeah. So I have one. I know that we've kind of our podcast is going long or whatever.
Again.
So yeah, again. I was gonna reference like if there's a teacher or a coach or something like that that you want to call out, and we can try to make it quick. Like if you want to call someone out and say like, hey, this person really made a difference in my life. Like growing up, for me, there was a coach and a teacher, Ingrid Herskind, who was I started working with her in 7th grade, and she left the school when I was in 10th grade, but she was like my coach during that period. And it was like when I became a little bit more of a grown up and when I started running a ton, just like huge influence in my life. To me, if I think back about the teacher that made the biggest difference or the coach that made the biggest difference, I definitely think of her. And I definitely think she was a bit of an inspiration for me going forward in coaching or whatever, right? So my question to you is like, I think all of us probably have a person like that they might think of.
Yes.
But maybe I'm an oddball. I don't know. So you want to call someone out? Give them a shout out.
My college track coach.
Nice.
Yeah. His name is Mark Robison. He is still coaching at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. He had a profound impact on me and me personally in my life, and not only teaching me about the value of focused training and prescribed plans and certain things for all the different events, but also about the psychology behind competition and about competing. He taught me a lot about just the psychology of what it takes and how to bring your arousal control down enough that you can focus on the job at hand.
Right.
He had a big impact on a lot of different aspects of my life. So thank you, Mark Robinson.
Mine would be who I just mentioned earlier, Bob Duncan.
Nice.
Who owned the bike shop that I worked at, but also is a longtime family friend of ours. He's a track coach for Lebanon now, but he was Andrew Starkowitz's coach too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, very successful triathlon coach, very successful triathlete himself. But he definitely took me under his wing when I started in the sport, and kind of just, I would say the one thing that he taught me was it doesn't always have to be pretty if you just get up every single morning. And I mean, he was a military guy, so he was hard-nosed.
Right.
And if you just wake up every morning and just do the work, it'll eventually pay off. And that's what that guy's done every single day of his life. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Bob Duncan.
That's fun.
That's good stuff.
I had a really dynamic core group of guys that kind of ran our exercise science department, kinesiology department. So it's actually about 3 of them. It would be Jack Bowerly, Jim Herkimer, and Frank Froelich. They were just so dynamic in terms of the way that they engaged you and challenged you, and the way that we got to kind of do stuff on the lab side of things too was really quite inspiring. So those guys really laid a foundation for me to think about things from a multitude of different angles, whether it be exercise science to how you handle your life to business application with how we're going to use our degrees as we move forward in our life and how we can apply it to our life. So it was kind of a long-standing thing that I still to this day, go back and think about. So thanks, guys.
Yeah. There you go.
So, all right, let's get into our one last thing. Let's wrap this thing up. We are very, very overdue. We're definitely needing to cut this thing and be done. Let's run around the table real quick. I'm going to skip my hot seat, and I'll make that my one last thing. And I'll ask you guys a question. So, Lance, go ahead.
I got nothing. I need to plug.
Oh, man.
What's your Instagram? Give us your Instagram.
One more
People
time.
can find pictures.
It's at Dr. Hep. DRHEPP. At Dr.
You
Hep.
will not be disappointed. Go there, people.
And follow him on Strava, too. He's
The Strava.
still putting up all kinds of crazy stuff, and you can see a lot of those cool pictures there as well.
Nice.
Yep.
Evan, one last thing.
Anybody who's injured coming to the end of their season, come and see me.
Oh, yeah.
Got so many injured people right now. Proactive physical therapy specialist in East Vancouver.
Nice.
Yeah. Look us up on the interweb.
Matt, one last thing.
Evan and I were just talking before the podcast. There is a race coming up this coming weekend. It's called the PDX Triathlon. I'm signed up for it. I don't know how much I'm going to race it, but I thought I might bring some cameras and do some video. So I will try to do that. It'll probably be after the next podcast so the video goes out, but sometime look for a video.
We may do some
Triathlon.
fun post-race interviews.
We can do something fun. Yeah.
Something fun.
We'll
It's gotta
figure
be
out.
fun.
We'll make it fun somehow. Jake,
All right.
Mr. Jake.
One last thing, hot seat question.
Boom.
What is the best place, or where would the best place be to have a 1-week training camp in late January, early February?
Late January, early February.
Correct.
Okay.
Got to have good
time
weather,
season
good
matters,
riding,
yeah.
and just good volume.
Okay.
Good climbing, good training, all the above. Think about that for a second. We went to Palm Springs last year for 8 days, and it was magical. We had such a good time and rode a ton of miles, did a ton of climbing, and saw a lot of good stuff, and had some good team camaraderie. There was 14 of us who were able to make the trek down there. So where would you guys go?
Tucson, Arizona, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably an option. Good climbs around there,
Yeah.
good
Okay.
cycling community. It should be warmish
Yep.
in January, February. So
Okay.
maybe
Evan,
Tucson.
I've got a buddy out in Savannah, Georgia right now who's a resident there, so I would just go there to visit him and ride because it's going to be warm in Savannah, Georgia
Okay.
at that time, and it's coastal riding.
do
So
they
that's
have
fun.
climbing there?
You'd probably, Appalachia's not too terribly far. You probably have to drive to get to Appalachia, but coastal riding.
Right.
So think of it as Jupiter, Florida, sort of.
How about you, Matt?
I think Southern California is an excellent option. I was thinking Arizona as well. Tucson has got, a lot of the pro triathletes go to Tucson and stuff like that in the wintertime. You could try to do more mountainous stuff. There's stuff that's in like northern Arizona, but I think it's going to be too snowy and too cold there. Yeah. And then I was thinking like Mammoth Lakes in California, but I also think that's too snowy. That's too cold.
Yeah,
so I
you
think,
can't ride there that time of year.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have to do right, and I think you have to do, something like Southern California. I think Tucson would be fine. But where you guys went last year, I think is a great option.
Yeah. My thing would be San Diego and Orange County. There's some great riding down there. You can hit the coast, and then there's some really good mountain climbing down there. You can go up to Glendora Mountain Road and hit that up and do the Mount Baldy ski lift area up there at the Crystal Lake area where they've actually finished the tour of California before. Yeah. There's some great stuff down there. So.
There's also Kona, the Big Island, or Majorca in the Mediterranean,
or go Australia.
Or Australia.
Gold Coast,
Gold Coast.
We are actively seeking sponsors for the Dialed Cycling Team to help promote.
Take a trip to the Gold Coast.
Okay, guys, thank you again for coming out, Lance. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Good luck at Short Track.
Thank
Evan,
you.
thanks for coming in again. Thank you for your
Always.
help this week with physical therapy, and we'll see you on Friday.
Always, yep.
Matt, thank you as always, and good luck at your race coming up. And
Wouldn't call it that.
yeah,
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Oh, we're going to have a blast, Matt.
We'll do something.
all right, and everybody, thank you for listening. Check us out at Dialed Podcast on Instagram and at Dialed Podcast on Facebook, and shoot us an email at info@dialedpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening, you guys. Bye for now.